Thanks for joining us, everyone. My name is Jasper with Score. I want to thank you all for joining us for one of our webinars today on search engine optimization for your business. I want to thank Corey for joining us. And yes, I will be able to link. Oh, are we running a different one today? But yes, I can
Good.
link that in the
We're
chat,
good.
as you said. I'm getting a call here at the office, but sorry about that, y'all, everyone. If you're not familiar with us here at SCORE, we are a free business mentoring service as a part of the Small Business Administration. We help clients from all parts of the business cycle from open to close. I'm joined today by Corey Daigle, or I'm sorry, I feel like I mess your name up every time I say it. I'm so
You
sorry
got
about it,
it.
but that was awesome. All right. Well, Corey is an expert on the topic and has done a couple great workshops with us. And I do want to thank today's sponsor, the Maine Technology Institute, for helping make today's workshop possible. If you have any questions, feel free to cue them in the chat, and or later use the raise hand function. We can have you come off of mute, or as it arises throughout the presentation. Either way, Corey, why don't you take it away?
All right. Thanks, Jasper. Hi, everyone. I'm Corey. I am the owner of WonderWeb. We are a web design and search engine optimization agency based in Maine. I'm looking out at the river in Bath right now. It's quite a rainy day here. I assume it is throughout all of Maine. Prior to starting my business in 2019, I was a registered nurse and worked specifically specialized in analytics and process improvement and outcome improvement. So it was more of a natural transition when I left healthcare than you would think, going into websites and search engine optimization. But I love it, and it's my team and I do great work. So today we're going to be talking about e-commerce search engine optimization. We've done a couple webinars on search engine optimization for the entrepreneur, which I've asked Jasper to link in the chat if you wanted to go back and watch those, or if you are watching that, if you haven't already gone to that webinar, please review it again or download it to watch. It's worth the watch. Today, though, we'll be specifically talking about e-commerce strategies and how to manage online stores. We'll be talking about choosing the correct payment method or the best payment method for your particular situation and how to showcase your products for maximum sales. And so this webinar is a little bit more focused on products and sales than the regular beginner SEO webinar. However, we will be covering a lot of those topics. So today, one of the major things that we'll be talking about is how to get paid online, which is a technology that a lot of people get really overwhelmed with and don't understand. We do a lot of guidance for our commerce clients here at WonderWeb. So what we'll be discussing is how to get paid online, the best payment processor for specific situations, some of the website options that you can select from for online sales, and how to use the tools that you already have, if you have some of them, to get paid online. I've already introduced myself. It's great to meet y'all. And if you could, I know, Roberta, thank you for dropping what you do in the chat. It helps me give really targeted guidance to know what different entrepreneurs are focused on. And feel free to ask some pretty specific questions. Search engine optimization is not cookie cutter. It's usually very specific, related to the goals that you're trying to achieve for your business and the customer base that you cater to. So those are two really unique things for every business. And it's not really possible to give cookie cutter explanations. There are some checklist type things, but that's not really what we'll be discussing today. We're going to be discussing some of the things that really help you move the needle in your particular business. So when you're first starting out, especially in Maine, we're somewhat remote, and so you may not get a lot of customers physically coming in your door. E-commerce allows you to avoid many of the large upfront costs that traditional retail can incur, like a building and and supplies and inventory. But like it's the online space can be like a physical storefront without the inventory and potentially the payroll. Hi, Paul, welcome. Online selling also lets you collect data about your customer interactions instead of anecdotal information. And you have a constant feedback loop of actionable insights to continue to tweak and innovate and refine your business. E-commerce makes serving niche markets even easier, which is really great because you can now, with e-commerce being so common, provide a service that is incredibly targeted and catering to a very small audience across the country or across the world. So I really think that looking into e-commerce with good search engine optimization built on the site for people to be able to find you can help you kind of start your dream business instead of hoping that people come through your door, although we will talk about brick and mortar businesses today. The use of digital channels keeps increasing, and a huge percentage of customers research products online before they make a purchase. So some of the things that we'll be talking about today are reviews and how to get reviews and the impact of reviews. I don't know about you, but I have never purchased anything on Amazon without reading the reviews myself. So most customers will search online prior to making a purchase, whether it's in person or online. Let's start with payment processing. So as a business who sells products or services, you do need to have some sort of online processing or digital processing for taking payment. Just to describe how that works, your customer makes a purchase. The information goes through a gateway to your aggregator or your bank, wherever you are getting your purchase financing from, and you receive a payment, whether immediately or within a couple days. In general, these are some fees that you can plan on. A credit card processing fee is typically, for most businesses and most processors, 2.9% of the total cost of the purchase, of a credit card purchase, and 30 cents per transaction. So deciding on the best solution for your payment processing can be tricky, and we're going to talk about that today. There is no one good solution for businesses, but I can give you some guidance on the best processing system that you can use to take payments online. So these are some of the questions that you need to understand or ask yourself. How do you run your business? Is it in person, online, or a combination of both? Are you mobile, or do you have a physical location, or both? Some of the things that you should consider are the cost and pricing of your different options. Pricing where you sell a lot of small products versus one large product affects the decisions that you would make for your payment processing. We'll get into that. The software integrations that you're using, the number and type of products that you sell, how you sell them, how you deliver them, and if you use a customer relation management software. We'll get into details about all of those. The first type of payment processing system that we'll be talking about today are payment aggregators. Payment aggregators, you'll have heard of them, PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, and Square are very common ones that you'll have heard of or used probably. Payment aggregators are quick and easy, and they make it so that you don't have to go through banks directly to get paid. There are some pros and cons of that, though. The pros are using a payment aggregator like PayPal. They're very simple and easy to get set up. You can get your payment processing set up within 24 hours. You do pay a transaction fee to use it. We talked about that 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction. It is an instant solution for you or your business, and it's free to sign up for. You just need to activate your account and do a deposit verification. So it's, like I said, it's really easy to set up, but You do pay a transaction fee. It's an instant solution and it's free. Great stuff there. The cons are, with payment aggregators, our fees can get very expensive and your account can be held or frozen at any given time by the aggregator for suspicious activity without warning. So here's an example. Here's a common reason why payment aggregators might freeze an account. The first is an unexplained spike in volume or revenue. So say, for example, you report to them you're selling this awesome t-shirt and your monthly gross is around $2,000 per month, month on month on month. Well, suddenly you make a change in your business and your income suddenly increases to $10,000 per month. Say you've added a new service or a new product, or really pivoted your business, but not really changed, kept the same payment processing. These are reasons why you might get suspended or flagged. Or the aggregator finds out you're not selling what you say you're selling. So some red flags that aggregators look for are tickets, illegal goods, and those are the two biggest ones, really. The best way to prevent this is to let your aggregator know, like PayPal or Venmo, let them know that you're changing your business model and that you're expecting a different revenue stream or a different amount of money coming into your business. The other option that you can use for payment, and we'll talk about each of these a little bit more in application later on in the presentation. The pros of a merchant account or bank processing are you do have a dedicated account for processing and there's no middleman. So typically, if you're doing processing through your bank and you have your account processing for payment through the bank, you're dealing directly with the bank, not through a middleman like PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, etc. The cost is often lower. It's 2 to 2.5. It's percentage, the 2 to 2.5% per dollar spent range, with a fixed monthly fee between $5 and $50 typically. There is some cons for this, however, and the biggest con is that it's a very complex application process. If any of you, we all have probably applied for a mortgage and gone through the mortgaging process, you'll have seen almost the exact process that you have to go through to get credit card processing through a merchant account or a bank. It can be very, very complex and lengthy. So my advice to most businesses is, if you're just starting, start with an aggregator and you can move on to a merchant account later or in adjunct over time. There are some financial limits where I recommend different, like switching to a merchant account from an aggregator. But before I talk about that, let's discuss our pros and cons again. So your aggregators, again, are like PayPal, Venmo, Stripe, and Square. Toast is another one of them for those of you that work in the restaurant industry. Quick and easy. There's no underwriting, so you don't need to apply for an extensive loan process. It's worldwide, has worldwide availability, and those are the pros. The cons are you risk a frozen account, and you have no control over when that happens, and your rates will be slightly higher. For a merchant account, it can be very custom to you with lower rates. It's very rare that you find a local bank that you'd work with that would do international sales, but there are some available. So how do you decide which one that you should pick? So if you have a lot of low-cost transactions, think like candy bars. So say you sell thousands of candy bars, and those are $2 each, right? Or $4. Every transaction that you make has a 30% cost for that transaction with a payment aggregator. So in that case, you may find that a merchant account would be more efficient for your business because you pay a monthly flat fee that's set, right? You still will pay your percentage, but instead of a per transaction fee, you're paying an overarching setup fee. So if you have a lot of low-cost transactions, you may want to consider a merchant account. However, aggregators are great for any businesses that have larger transactions or minimal transactions, similar to what I do with web design and search engine optimization. Each of our customers have once a month billing, and it's a one and done situation. It wouldn't make sense for me to really go through a bank, except at a point where your payments from credit cards, not overall payments, but just your payments from credit cards, are at about $5,000, then you start to see sort of an equalization between the merchant account and the aggregator, and you may want to slide over to a merchant account. So to repeat that, if you have around $5,000 in credit card transaction fees coming into your business every month, meaning people are paying about $5,000 total or more in credit card transactions, you may want to transition to a merchant account. It will start to be cheaper after about $5,000. So let's talk about the most common aggregators that are out there. The first one is PayPal. A lot of people use PayPal. It is a great way to get started for any business. Customers are familiar with it, and most people, like I said, have PayPal. PayPal owns a company called Braintree, which is another payment processing software. They also own Venmo. So working with PayPal can be a benefit to you in your business. The drawback of PayPal is you don't get to customize your invoicing, and you also at this time, I believe you aren't able to do regular monthly invoicing on a regular occurrence. You have to invoice a la carte every single payment. Stripe is another common aggregator. The benefits of Stripe are it can be customized to look how you want it to look. So you can specifically brand your invoices and receipts for your business, and it is available on most online platforms. For example, Shopify, which is a platform built exclusively for online sales, uses Stripe as its primary payment aggregator. Stripe also allows for recurring payments, so you can set up a monthly payment, and you can also have your customers pay through ACH or with online checks. Square is similar to Stripe in that it integrates with a lot of payment processing systems. I believe Square does have its branding on the invoices. There's no extra charge for the software, and you can get a free mobile reader, which is great for those of you who are on the go. So say farmers markets, hairdressers, even some restaurants can use Square. There's a lot of other gateways, payment aggregators that you may want to consider. And again, this goes back to your customer and what your customer tends to use for payment. And you'll get to know that because you know your customers. So if a lot of your customers if you're selling on Amazon or your customers are Amazon shoppers, you may want to do add on Amazon Pay. Venmo is another great option that we're seeing a lot of now. And then Google and Apple Pay have really changed the game. I do have Braintree here. Braintree is a payment aggregator that I probably wouldn't recommend. It integrates with WordPress. And if you don't have really strong technical skills or access to a web developer, you may have some struggles setting up Braintree. Although Braintree can do pretty much anything, and it is one of the gold standards out there. You can usually piece together something that works for you instead of going with the high-tech option that probably would cost you a lot of setup. Amazon Pay is, like I said, a great option if you're already selling on Amazon. Customers will not need to type in anything other than their Amazon password in order to make the purchase. And online checking is a great option as well. However, it does have a poor client experience. And so when you're thinking about payment, one of the places in your process that should be as seamless as possible should be your payment, right? Your payment processing should be as easy as possible for your customers. This is where your customers are most likely to back out of a sale. Those carts that are full that just stay full because someone's been online shopping, but they don't actually pull the trigger and make the purchase. You'll hear ACH payments referred to as e-checks, which can save you a lot on fees. You'll see it only through Stripe and Braintree, as far as I understand. And the customer experience, like I said, is poor because they have to enter their routing number and account number in order to set up payment. This is great for people that have recurring payments if they want it to come right out of their bank instead of through a credit card. But my advice to you would be, please don't push ACH payments. Have it available as an option if it is available through your aggregator. But consider your customer flow for purchasing. And this is elaborating upon that. So streamline your checkout process as much as possible. You want to definitely minimize steps and friction in the process to encourage conversions. And by conversions, what I mean is sales. So if you have the option of allowing a guest checkout, I'd recommend that. Allow people to purchase without creating an account. And this might be a good place to also add in an abandoned cart flow that you could create in your business, where if someone leaves something in the cart but doesn't purchase it, this is where email marketing campaigns can come in handy. There's some other things that you can do along the checkout process, such as positive feedback. You picked a great product, or just think about when you're at a restaurant and you're ordering something, the waiter tells you, oh, good choice. It feels good, right? So this is something that you want to integrate here. Also, signs of trust. So showing the security keys on your website are important. Even if they're just cut and pasted pictures of like the Visa Secure or whatever, if you are, you can claim that, and it does help with conversions. The other thing you can do is offer multiple payment options to improve the checkout experience. So when selling online, make customer experience 100% your top priority. Make it as easy as possible for them to purchase, because I always say you have 2 clicks. You can have them click into what you want them to do, or they can click that little red X up in the corner and leave your site, right? Those are really the 2 options. So the general rule of thumb is to offer more than one payment. Combinations could be PayPal and credit card processing, like that could be PayPal and Stripe, credit card and ACH. So that could be just Stripe alone, would take both of those. Credit card and Venmo, so Stripe and Venmo. And then remember, all of these options have multiple steps built, multiple payment processing built in, with the exception of PayPal and Venmo. Another thing to have on your website that will help with conversions is during your checkout process, have clear shipping and return policies. Those can be in the footer of your website, or along the bottom of the web page. There's like a little line that goes across the bottom that usually says created by, or copyright. You could actually put those in there if you choose, but the footer should be fine. And definitely demonstrate security. So the way that you can do that is with your SSL certificate. And that is your security certificate. And you see that on Google or any search engine up in the upper left corner. When you've searched for a website, there should be a little lock that shows up in the upper left-hand corner by your URL box where you enter the URL. And also you can put those badges on your site that I referred to. Even just a secure checkout badge is great. And those can simply be graphics. So credit card fees, we talked a little bit about those, how they're processed through merchant accounts and through payment aggregators. The cost of it, again, is around 2.9% per transaction total, and then 30 cents per transaction. So that can really eat into your profits as a business owner. So a lot of business owners ask, well, can't I just charge a credit card fee or put, an increased price for the purchase if it's by credit card, or a discount if it's not by credit card? And one of the things that I would say is best practice in general. There's always specific circumstances that will always be a little bit different, but in general, please just roll in the cost of the credit card processing into your product cost. This is a cost of doing business, and it's something that you should expect. It's an ongoing cost. you will pretty much always have to pay it as a business owner. So you can charge credit card fees. If you do charge credit card fees, you have to notify the customer. You have to label it that it's a convenience fee. And then another way you can do this is set up a minimum amount for a credit card. You may see this in some convenience stores. Whenever I'm in Europe, I see, you must spend €5 before you can use your credit card or something. So you could do that. You're not permitted to charge more than the cost to process. And if you have to do a return, the refund has to go back to the customer. If the customer wants a return, you have to pay the fees back. Again, this is a poor user experience. My advice is to roll the cost of your processing fees into the cost of your product. Customers do not respond well to being asked to pay for credit card fees. So if you do decide to do that, please do a really in-depth cost benefit analysis. If you're not sure how to do one of those, you could reach out to your SCORE mentor, or the Small Business Development Center has some finance people that they can help you with, both for free. So best practice is to allow for credit card fees in pricing, and just consider this a cost of doing business. Are there any questions so far? Hi, Jocelyn.
Not currently, but I do want to apologize on Score's end. I know I believe we accidentally scheduled this one as the previous SEO workshop. However, the e-commerce information is incredibly valuable. So really, really enjoying it so far. Anyone does have any questions, feel free to cue them in the chat or message me and I will read them out.
If there's any specific SEO questions that you have for your business overarching, please let me know. Yeah, Dan and I had talked about doing the commerce one today. So,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's a mix up on our end over here, so apologies. Oh, actually, right, as we're here, to accept money direct to bank, one must have a merchant processor set up, or is it more simple than that? From Michael.
So accept money bank direct to bank, like through an ACH payment online. Okay. So yes, you typically would, if it's an online payment, you would have to have some sort of merchant processor set up. Stripe is a great one. And it's free.
Yeah, we use Stripe here, and it's very, very intuitive. And Michael does have questions. How would refunds work with me?
Yep. So when you set up your Stripe account, you'll have a username and password to get into the account. And what you would need to do is just click into that fee and do a refund right within Stripe. It's just a couple clicks.
Yeah, and I believe if in my experience with Stripe too, with some of the events that we've hosted, if you need any further assistance with that, I believe there is a quick help desk button in your Stripe payment processing, at least from my experience. Kind of a run through on it. And last, yeah.
Go ahead.
So he then says, so we would refund them and absorb additional cost of the refund as the business with ACH. Correct?
Correct. Yeah, typically, and ACH payments are around 1.5% fee. So there is a small fee associated with ACH payments. You got it.
Michael says, thank you.
At this point, we do have about 30 minutes left. And since you did present or talk about presenting the other webinar, we can switch to that quickly if you like, Jasper.
I've sent out the recording. I'll include the recording of the SEO one. Why don't we continue with the e-commerce one? Since it is new, it's new and great information.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right. So building your online store. There's lots of options out there as business owners for building an online store quite simply. And we'll talk about the common ones today. So the first one that I'd like to share with you is Wix. You will need, typically, if you've got an e-commerce store, to pay a monthly fee to the content management system like Wix. So the last time I checked, these were the prices. So in order to get a business or e-commerce hosting plan, Wix charges $29 a month. It does have its own payment processor, which is okay for simple processing, and you can add in lots of other payment processors. The way I think of like Wix or Squarespace or any of those is sort of like, um, an Apple device. So you have your phone or your device, and there's a certain amount of vetted plugins or applications that you can add into your website. It's similar to that. You don't really get to pick beyond what they already have selected for you, but you do have some options. The next option is Squarespace, which is slightly cheaper at $26 a month. You can use Stripe very easily, which includes both ACH and credit card payment. And Stripe has a PayPal integration that will allow for Venmo. So um, Squarespace has the PayPal integration. Square is also available very easily within Squarespace. I personally am not a huge Squarespace fan. So I've worked in all of these platforms in a limited way. We are WordPress developers, but I find that Wix and Shopify have a better user flow for you designing it yourself. Squarespace, I find, is very limited. I know they are working on creating some more robust options within Squarespace, but I personally, it's not my favorite, and I find it a little clunky for build. Shopify is a good option for online commerce. It's specifically built for online commerce. So the reason I often for DIYers would recommend Shopify is because it's set up to be a store. So the user experience and the flow for your customer is baked in without you really needing to build it as much as you would for some of the other options. Shopify has Stripe baked in, and hosting starts at $29 a month. So they're all about the same price. I would say, if I had to pick one of these done for you sort of DIY website development systems, content management systems for online sales, I definitely would probably go with Shopify first. It's probably the most scalable of all of the options. And what I mean is that it can grow with you. But the most scalable options that you'll find are probably WordPress. The difference between WordPress and the other content management systems like Shopify that I talked about is WordPress is every option is available to you in WordPress. It can do infinite amounts of things for you. And so built into WordPress or added in is a program called WooCommerce, which you can set up your shop within. WordPress is great for businesses of all sizes. The drawback of that is you're probably going to need some technical support or some sort of developer to help you with a lot of the build. The other thing about WordPress is because it's kind of not designed for you and all of the options in the world are out there, you can do a really bad job, which takes more work, right? The benefit of WordPress is if you can do it yourself, it's very economical. I do like WordPress a lot. We are WordPress developers and recommend that. Michael asks, may I ask for the reason we would probably need a web developer with WordPress given? Yes. So there is a plug and play within WordPress called Elementor. There's tons of them, but Michael specifically mentions one called Elementor, which can turn your WordPress website into a drag and drop. The reason that I typically would recommend you work with a developer is because of a lot of the integrations with WordPress. It's not as much the drag and drop functionality that you would need help with. The other thing is you only know a good website when you see a bad website, right? And so I'll give you an example of the way we design websites. We're thinking about conversion-focused copywriting. We're thinking about on-page search engine optimization. We're thinking about the way the eye flows. We're thinking about user experience. And so those things aren't all baked in a WordPress website, and they may not be baked in the theme you pick in some of the other content management systems. But my best advice is if you're comfortable with WordPress and your website is converting, then keep doing that. Does that answer your question, Michael? So the integrations can be straightforward, some of them, and where it comes in is as your site grows and becomes more robust, there may be some plugin integrations that or plugin issues with two plugins on a website, or the stack that you've chosen to use from within WordPress can create a failure on your website, and then you don't know what the failure is and where to go with it. So here's some other ways as an online business that you can invoice online. And this is specifically great for service-based businesses. So prior to me starting, going into Stripe and working in a formal CRM or customer relation management software that specializes in my type of business and does, has all the workflows and things in there for me, I really piecemealed things that first year. You got to get Ninja. You got to do what you can, right? And so there's some other ways that you can invoice online that are great, especially for service-based businesses. The first is your payment software. So you could, if you have QuickBooks, you could use that to invoice. I don't find QuickBooks invoicing that great. It's a little clunky. You may need a bookkeeper. Xero is another option that bookkeepers can use. It's an alternative to QuickBook. It does connect to Stripe and is a little bit better at reporting than some of the other software. QuickBook, I would say, is probably the gold standard for businesses if you're trying to sell, scale, integrate something in, create service lines, and you really want to get into the analytics of your business and where your finances and dig in beyond just a simple P&L. QuickBooks is probably the best bet for you. There are some free, easy to use software though that I really liked. When I started my business, I used something called Wave Accounting, which is a free software. It can invoice, you can brand your invoices. It was a great place to get started. The drawback with that and some of the other free or cheaper options are that the reporting is acceptable, but when you start to grow your business and you really want to get into the granular details of like, what's the profitability of this service or service line or product line, it's more difficult to tell. Another way that you can invoice is scheduling software. So scheduling software has become quite robust over the years. So Calendly and Acuity in particular are two software that people can sign up for a time with you or a service or a class or a course, fill out a questionnaire for you from within the software, pay for the class, get text notifications that the class is coming up or the course or the session with you. It's really a great tool for service-based businesses. And I have set up some things in Calendly for different customers. Like I remember I was working with a client who was going through a grant program and they taught knitting classes, and we were able to set up their knitting classes, their crocheting and knitting classes in Calendly, and they could get paid. Everything was all in one place. And that really worked for them. You can also invoice through your customer relationship management software, or the software if you're a service-based business, you do your customer tracking in. So there's too many CRMs to even begin to cover. My recommendation would be to look into your industry standard. So for example, as a web development and search engine optimization agency, we use a tool called Dubsado, but there are other tools out there like 17 Hats and Honeybook, which are both which are just as cost effective and user friendly. Sales CRMs, for those that are selling products and services, can get a little expensive. And by that, I'm talking about HubSpot and Salesforce. So sometimes it's worthwhile to pay a consultant for the right recommendation. You don't want to pay for more than you need, right? It's just a waste of resources. So I do have a pro tip though. or I like to call them nerd alerts. If you're techie, check out a site called AppSumo. Developers will sell systems that they've created to get some initial funding or to just test viability of a product, an application for pennies on the dollar. So we've purchased some great tools through WonderWeb. One of the things that we purchased was our video software, and it was a one-time cost of maybe $150. And so we have got free video software for our business. So that's an asset for our business instead of a monthly subscription liability. So consider checking out AppSumo. Again, let's talk about user experience. You're welcome, Roberta. Something that I tell anyone who will listen to me is the business that understands their customers the best is the business that will win in the end, right? So when you consider that the average cart abandonment rate is 70%, here's where at the time of click for sale, you want to reassure your customer, make sure that there's testimonials and reviews. Make your customer feel great for being there, and create a personal connection. You can do that by having a picture. I remember one of our websites, we put a picture at checkout when COVID started of it was a restaurant, and one of the restaurant workers was holding out a pizza box saying, "Thanks for your tip," right? And increased their tip rate by like 40%. It really, like, using little tools like that to understand where your customer is in the journey and really catering to that at that phase is really important. And to do that, you can look at your analytics. Analytics are really important. When you're writing copy or your written content on your website, please make it about them. If you're looking through your website and you're seeing a lot of I and we, I would really challenge you to flip the script to a customer-focused language. Instead of, we donate all of our proceeds, 5% of our proceeds to turtles in Indonesia. You can say, because of your purchase, 5% of proceeds will be given to turtles in Indonesia, so they ... right? Just flipping the script a little bit for your customers is really handy. So back to that cart abandonment rate of being 70%. This is a low-hanging fruit, right? You've got a high-intent customer there that has indicated that they're interested in your product or service, and they're leaving their information, ideally. If you don't have a tag on your website to collect that information, you can add it. And the lowest hanging fruit for you is usually converting your existing traffic. So consider the benefits of free delivery. Sometimes it's worth it, sometimes it's not, right? So you have to do sort of a cost benefit analysis of, if I increase the minimum cost for free shipping to $50, would I make more money from paying for the shipping than I would if I just filled the $30 order? Thinking about things like that are really important. And again, you can work with your SCORE mentor or get a mentor through the Small Business Development Center, both free, to get some guidance on that. The considerations around that are, you may increase returns, but you may have increase in orders too. So again, risk benefit analysis is really important here. One thing about free shipping, and we get asked about this a lot, if you're going to consider offering free shipping, consider your average cart size and increase the minimum purchase for free shipping to above that, into something that would make it worth it for you. I do have a free tool that I'd like to share with you. I'll drop it in the chat right now. It includes a website checklist and how to set up your Google business profile, which will help you a lot. One of the things that we've talked about a lot recently in the web developer space is search everywhere optimization instead of search engine optimization. There's been so many changes in the industry with the or introduction of artificial intelligence software. But the other thing is we're really seeing some of these social channels increase in popularity for sales, Instagram in particular. So most sales and searches are happening from Google initially, but we are seeing a drastic increase in searches on Instagram. And Instagram strategies are changing a lot around that as well. So I'll be interested to see how that turns out over time. When it comes to picking the right information for your business, it really is about where your customers are. So if your customers are on Instagram, you may want to consider a really good Instagram strategy. But the most impactful things that I would say that you could do is really hone your messaging in and make sure that you've got that message spread across the internet. Gather all of the social media channels, all of the different places that you can register your business, and make sure you're registered there. Join the Chamber of Commerce, get those backlinks, and really, really become sort of the go-to in your area. Are there any other questions?
Not in the chat currently, but if anyone does, feel free to put them there.
This would be a great time to ask very specific questions about your business with some detail.
Yeah, we're happy to field them. I have included, if anyone did come in with SEO related questions, I've put the link in the chat for that workshop, and I'll also include it in my follow-up. I do want to apologize again for the mix-up here today, but I do think that this e-commerce information is really invaluable for almost any business nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Another one
Michael,
from Michael. If someone
yeah.
chooses to sell courses and digital products, what would you recommend for relevant mentions?
Yeah, there's lots of great course and digital product software. I am not an expert in that, but there are some great ones out there. Kajabi is one that I'm really familiar with that tends to do almost anything that you would need. And there are some great ones that I know you mentioned WordPress, Michael. There's some great ones that plug into WordPress. So what I would do is whatever theme that you're using, whether it's Divi or Astra or whatever from within WordPress, email that developer for that channel and see if they have any recommendations. That's something you could do because they could say like, oh, this one works really well from within this theme that you've chosen to use.
Hmm. I know that we at a score for one of our major events use a WordPress site that ties in with our Stripe. So there's some great connectivity there, as well as Constant Contact is what we use for most of our newsletter, and so the tie-ins there are also really useful.
Yeah.
Another one from Michael. Would you be able to compare and contrast Venmo Business Pay versus Stripe if you're going for the lowest fee?
From what I understand, those are the same, the 2.9% for the overall transaction with the 30 cents per transaction.
Does seem to be almost standardized across a lot of payment processing softwares that I've seen at least.
Yeah. One of the things that I like about the payment processing software is it doesn't matter what card a customer uses. So if they're using an American Express card, you're still paying that lower fee, which is great.
Yeah. Uh, Michael does say he in a recent search 1.9% on Venmo versus the 1.5%. So I'm not. We
Oh
could look
yeah,
into that a little bit, but overall, it's up to you. I believe it's down to that. We do
yeah,
have one
that's
from
for
yeah.
ACH too. That's for the checking. So those are
Hmm,
cheaper, and the rates will vary on those.
gotcha. Monica wonders, are there payment aggregators that don't require you to validate your business with a link to your website? I ran this issue when trying to use Stripe, and Monica's business is not online.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Venmo and PayPal would be a good choice for you,
Hmm.
or Toast.
Hmm.
But and Square is something that you'll see a lot of hairdressers use,
Hmm.
and they don't have websites, so that's something that you could use as well if
Yeah,
you want.
Toast, and if you did want to tie it in, I know Toast and Square both have really robust, ease of access for changing your inventory into an e-commerce option. I've used that personally outside of Score without my own business. So it's Square itself. I'm personally a Square fan.
To piggyback on what Jasper said is yes, it will grow with you too. So if in the future you're using Toast or Square, you can add them to your website in the future. Toast has a really great integration for booking and scheduling as well
Mm.
that you can use on your website.
Yeah, Monica says it's hip to be Square. Thank you.
Monica, we should be friends. I like that.
And Michael says thanks again as well.
Yeah, of course.
Anyone else with any questions? I know that we did change it up a little bit, but again, I think e-commerce is a really valuable part for any business nowadays, and information that can also apply to outside of an e-commerce specific business here today. Dylan does say a happy mix-up for me. Great information. So I will be. When I post this to our YouTube channel, I'll make sure it has the correct title, and we'll send it out as the correct title. Again, I do apologize for that mix-up. A little bit of gonna mix up in our scheduling that we do here at Score. But again, e-commerce is a big question that comes in a lot through Score, and one that we here in Maine, our mentors are regrettably a little, I would say, I don't want to say behind the curve, but a little, we're lacking in the experience for, unfortunately. But I really appreciate being able to have this workshop at our repertoire, and the recording will be great to have. Anyway, it sounds like looks like we may be out of questions unless anyone else happens to have one. Corey, any more into the presentation here? Is that all?
I don't think so. If anyone has any specific questions, that feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm Corey at thewonderweb.com. Or Jasper will be reaching out to all of you with the slide deck and things so we can share those.
Yeah,
Share
when
my
I send out
contact
the
there.
slides and recording, I'll be sure to include Corey's contact info. You can also respond to my email if you have any questions about Score. Excuse me. And I do want to thank everyone for attending today. Like I just said, we will be sending out those slides and a link to the recording. There'll also be a brief survey. We would really appreciate you filling out. It helps us, kind of continue our continuing education opportunities here at Score through our webinars, as well as our mentoring services. If you don't already have a mentor with Score, it's completely free and confidential. You can just head to score.org, enter your zip code, and click on Find a Mentor. It's a short form after that. And if you're here in Maine, I'm our client services manager. I'm the person that pairs everyone with a mentor. And we hope to have you paired pretty quick once we get you in. Either way, if you didn't know about Score itself, we are, a nonprofit partner of the SBA. And in Maine, last year alone, we helped start over 560 new businesses. And I want to thank everyone one more time for attending. And I want to thank Corey for another great presentation. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day. See ya.